Hey guys, I'm super pumped to be sitting here with Amy Alexander. She's the executive director of the Refuge Center for Counseling, but not only that, she goes to Rolling Hills, her family's involved, Dan's her husband. So it's so good to be sitting down with you to talk about such a big issue that we're facing. So here's kind of the first question to get us in this. What's the state of mental health in today's society right now?
So statistically, pre-pandemic, about 25% of Americans were dealing with a mental health concern. Now let's just stop to define that. I think for a long time there's been a tremendous amount of shame and stigma around mental health. So we thought of that as someone who is having mental health problems, a mental health breakdown. And we kind of went, yeah, those people over there need help. But mental health is really just our way of handling stress. It's the way we relate to one another. It's that little voice inside our head that's been talking to us for as long as we can remember. And for some people, that's a voice that says, I'm unworthy, or I'm powerless, or it was my fault, I'm a failure. And it's our relationship to that voice that defines our mental health. So mental health is something we all have. But right now, as a result of the prolonged uncertainty and stress that we have faced, we really have seen an increase in things like anxiety, depression, grief and loss, substance abuse, increased daily drinking, eating disorders, self-harm, those sorts of things.
Wow. Tell us what you guys do, what you offer.
Sure. Well, the Refuge Center was started in 2005. My dear friend Jennifer Gillette and I co-founded the organization 16 years ago, and we have grown and grown and grown. It was really our heartbeat that no matter what someone was struggling with, what they'd done, what had been done to them, where they lived, what their story was, that they could come to Refuge and find a place of affordability, excellence, and true healing and care. So we have about 70 counselors now. We provide about 33,000 counseling sessions. We work with ages 4 on up into the 80s. So there's really not a lot we don't do.
That's amazing. And we're grateful for the work that you do in our community. And today, as a part of the series Eyes on Jesus, we're focusing on stress. So give us just a few things on tips, best practices, the way we manage stress.
I'd love to talk about that. Well, first of all, I want to talk about something called the window of tolerance. So we all have a window, and when we are in that window of tolerance, we're functioning at our best. We can be reasonable and rational and make good decisions. When we fall below the window of tolerance, we find ourselves to be lethargic, overwhelmed, unmotivated. When we fall upwards out of that window of tolerance, we're anxious, panicked, overwhelmed, even manic at times. We know that stress and trauma shrink the window of tolerance. So all of our windows have been shrunk. Our grace tanks have been running low, and our ability to cope has been outweighed by some circumstances that we were just not prepared for. So I think it's really important to recognize that we all need strategies to recalibrate. And it's not the same for every person. What you're navigating will require a different tool at times than mine will. I kind of can't overemphasize the importance of movement, though. Stress does live in our bodies. It gets trapped at the cellular level. Bessel van der Kolk, who wrote The Body Keeps the Score, would say immobility is at the root of trauma. It's not just the thing that happened to me, it's the fact that I felt powerless in that moment. So we need to move our bodies to be reminded of their agency, to remind our bodies, I am strong, I can change this. So I just sort of can't emphasize movement enough. Move and pray at the same time. Go on a walk and pray. And there's a lot of neuroscience behind why that works. But I'd love to give 4 tips for our church today about things that you can do. This is something I've been talking with our team about all year, and it's 4 ways to get radical. Because we're in radical times, we've got to match that with getting radical. So the first thing is radical boundaries. So Brene Brown did some research and found that the most compassionate people were the people that had the best boundaries, which I think was surprising research. But why is that? Well, because when you said no a lot, there's more internal space to be kind to other people. So radical boundaries means saying no more often right now because our margins are thinner. It means doing less than we used to, and all of those things are okay. The second thing I want to talk about is radical adventure. This is really important to me. This is a huge part of my self-care plan. But when life weighs in heavy, sometimes we need to get away to the mountains, to a stream, to an ocean, and we need to go look at how big God is. Look at His majesty. And it's this visceral understanding of, I'm not in charge. I don't carry this on my my shoulders. Look at God. And our bodies have to be reminded of that. The third thing is radical rest. So if you used to take a 15-minute power nap on Sundays and that was enough, we've been through a lot, it may not be sufficient in this time. So give yourself permission to rest longer, to rest deeper, to take retreats, sabbaticals, silent retreats, whatever may be needed. And then finally is radical connection, and we just need people more than we ever have. We've been tremendously isolated, and that's not gonna happen accidentally. You know, I've been thinking a lot about this idea around not just church around a stage, but church around a table. Right. So find a few people that you see every Sunday and ask them for dinner. It's getting brave, it's being courageous, but seek out intentional relationships. And it's what the church really needs right now. The church really needs a place to be real, a place for people to be honest and open, and for it to be safe to do that.
That's awesome. And we know there's a lot going on with you guys. And we're praying over you, praying for the refuge, that God will provide and give strength and boldness. And so thank you guys so much. Amy, we appreciate you.